Welcome back, everybody, to the Joey Osborne Show. I am your host, Joey Osborne, for today's video. And boy, has a lot happened in the world of sports. Obviously, both the NBA seasons and the NHL have concluded. Obviously, Boston winning in 5 games, beating the Mavericks in a complete slugfest on Boston's end. Let's just say Dallas didn't play very well. And then the NHL, the craziest of craziest things that could have possibly happened had happened. Florida goes up 3-0, beating the crap out of the Oilers. And then all of a sudden, Game 4. And Edmonton wins 3 straights, takes it to Game 7. But obviously, there at the end, Florida pulls away with the win. So a lot of craziness, obviously. In the NBA, a lot of coaching changes. We'll get to that in a later episode here. But for today, obviously, the NHL has a lot of stuff coming out here. So we had to do a whole episode here on just NHL stuff. And today we got a special guest here, Tyler Allen. He's from the Units at the Point podcast. It was a Penguins podcast, but he's got a whole bunch of hockey stuff here. And we are going to get into it right now. So welcome to the show, Tyler.
Thank you, Joey. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so obviously, first off here, let's get into the big news of today. Obviously, we've known this has been happening for a while, but today we finally got to see the first photos. Fanatics is taking over as the jerseys for the NHL, and we're going to get to see that today. So let's take a look here, if I can share my screen. I don't know how to do that. Oh, hold on, is Tyler still with us? We may have lost Tyler, hold on.
I'm still here. Are you here?
Yeah, this screen's like freezing now. I was trying to figure out if you're still here.
Yeah, your screen's freezing on my end, too, as
Okay.
well.
Let's see. I'm gonna try to share my screen here. What was that? Hold on a second. Let's try to fill this. Share screen's that. Do you remember share screens out on here or not?
I do not.
Oh, here it is. It's right on the bottom.
It's
Maybe
been 5 minutes since I've been on.
It was right on the bottom. Let's get into it here, though. But Fanatics reviewed them, and let's take a look here. Now, this is obviously just the NHL ones here, but we can get a little bit of a look here. Obviously, you can see. We can zoom in. Yeah, we can zoom in here. Definitely, they look very interesting, I say at least. They look a lot better than the obviously the baseball ones that they did earlier with Nike. But obviously, Tyler, what are your thoughts here on the Fanatics jerseys?
You know, I was optimistic. I wanted to go with an optimistic mind with this, and I know most people are unpleased with how Adidas is done versus Fanatics is done, but right here, right off the get-go, first glance, they don't really look that different from the Adidas. Obviously, the Fanatics logo is on the back of the jersey now versus Adidas, which is really the main big difference. It does say the Authentic Pro in the back of the jersey as well, which, whatever, you're not going to see that when they're playing. But there's no more like the dimple effect on the shoulders, which I kind of like that change because really that dimple effect like kind of showed off the equipment, honestly, in my eyes, and them kind of getting rid of that, which, I don't mind about. But Fanatics right out of the get-go, it hasn't been that bad, and I'm still going to keep an optimistic mind. It's not like how Nike's transition in MLB this year and how everyone hated it with the small number of stuff. They look the exact same jerseys. There's just those little teeny tiny differences to the jerseys that really you're not going to see open to the naked eye.
Yeah, another thing I noticed here too, I don't know if you noticed this, but when they like showed them off, the colors seem to like pop more than the Adidas ones. Like they seem a little more vibrant. Which I thought actually looked pretty good in my opinion. Like I was pretty worried about Fanatics taking over, but obviously after seeing these, they actually look pretty good. I was kind of hoping it'd be a little bit different than the Adidas ones. Like I like the Adidas and stuff, but I kind of wish there would have been a little bit more of a difference between the two. But obviously these look pretty well in my opinion.
Yeah, so
I'm excited to see how these look on the ice, but for the moment, they do look pretty good.
Yeah, and you know what I saw too is with the transition over to Fanatics wanted to keep it as similar as possible to the Adidas jerseys, and then I believe a few years down the line, the jerseys are going to get it completely redone in whatever Fanatics ways. Because I think this is year one of a 10-year deal, so
Yeah.
they're really just getting acclimated right now and stuff. And honestly, the big breaker for me was when Fanatics first took over, the immediate reports of, okay, if your team had an alternate jersey, it's going to go away and it's just going to be home and away jerseys all season long. And then they'll bring in alternates for the 2025-26 season. But that's not the case. Now we have teams who are bringing in their alternate jerseys as well, like that. And, the alternate jerseys, they give a whole different, I'd say, version of the NHL. And I love to see it. And I'm glad that Fanatics is saying yes to it, alternate jerseys. I know some teams are taking theirs away, some are keeping them, but I'm glad alternates will stay in the loop as well next season.
Yeah, and obviously alternates, everyone loves a good alternate, and definitely the Penguins have some great alternates in the past. And there's a lot of great alternates in the NHL right now to begin with, so obviously having those is a big plus as well. But on staying on here the terms of the new jerseys, we had two teams here decide they wanted to do a big rebrand, and boy did they do that with the. Actually, they're technically in the same city too. The LA Kings and the Anaheim Ducks both decided to go for redesigns. They wanted to go back a little old school, yet make it modern. And obviously today we got to see both the logos and the jerseys for both of these teams. So first off here, let's move to the Los Angeles Kings. If we can here, let's see if that can... Oh, I got it. Well, let's move on here to the Kings. These are the new jerseys. Obviously, you can see the new logo in the center here. And honestly, they look pretty good in my opinion. They're definitely a little simplistic, yet also heavily detailed. Like, they're like in the line between now. And honestly, they look vintage, but they also look kind of new. You know what I mean? And they look very good. Honestly, you can see Quentin Byfield in the home jersey of it. Let's see if I can find the away here. But you can obviously see through these a little bit what they got on the home side. And Tyler, what do you think of the redesign for the Kings here?
I love it. They're going back to the 90s, to that Gretzky era logo, which everyone's a fan of. And they completely took that logo and redesigned it. The font is bigger, it's more vibrant. I know the original 90s logo Los Angeles was very small and a weird kind of font. It's the same font, but
Yeah,
really bolded up so you can actually see it. And just the little subtle details they did to that old logo with this one is outstanding. It's the original crown from the very first year, just in black.
yeah.
It looks phenomenal and stuff. And they really just took all 50 some years of their history and sort of just combined it into this logo. And the jerseys, they're awesome. And
They do look good,
really,
yeah.
like, especially for the home jersey, what I love most about this home jersey is I love the striping, all that, but the numbers on the jersey, it goes back to that old vintage font, one, and two, the colors of the numbers match the logo. Because on the logo, it's gray, white, and black, and the numbers are gray, black, and then white, which works. And then even here for the away jersey as well, gray, white, and black exactly matches the jersey the logo. And they did a terrific job. It looks way better than the Shield logo. I know people are a little upset that they wanted to see them go back to the purple and gold, which is a great color scheme, but definitely not now. I still love the black and the silver that the Kings still use it, but this is a positive rebrand by the Kings. It looks so much better than their old identity, and they're rumored to bring a third jersey heading into the following season after that, with that crown, with that new original crown being the centerpiece of that jersey.
Yeah, no, definitely a lot of things like you obviously now put up the away jerseys. But one thing I noticed, I just listen now and looking at this towel, but do you see on the sleeves right here? doesn't that look exactly like the Vegas Golden Knights, like the texture
Yeah,
they
it's got
have?
like that sparkle. So I have it. I have
I
a
think
Vegas Golden Knights
it
jersey.
looks like the exact same one to me. Like I'm wondering if they actually bought that in here.
Yeah, so
'Cause
like
it's very cool looking.
I have a Vegas Golden Knights jersey, and it has like that sparkle effect,
Yeah,
kind of on the gold parts of the jersey. At least their original home jerseys. That's the one I have, and I
yeah,
can see that kind of you know mix
yeah,
with these ones. Although there's no chrome buckets for the Kings right now, so it's
yeah.
very
I do
interesting
see
to
that they don't
see
have the chrome ones.
if
Yeah,
at one point this year they might bring back the chrome buckets, maybe to wear on their away jerseys, or maybe even their alternates the following season after. So I'm curious to see what the Kings are going to do regarding their chrome helmets.
yeah, and obviously a lot of things they could do. One thing I would say is I kind of wish they would have added some gold. Like this looks nice, and I think it's a lot better than what they previously had. I honestly hated what they previously had, but I would have loved a little bit of purple and gold as well. But I think these look phenomenal in my opinion. They look great. Honestly, Fanatics, as much as I don't like them, they've done a good job of the NHL from what we've seen to this point. And
Yeah,
obviously, moving on here to the next jerseys from we got shown today, we got to see here obviously this last one, and I think this is I kind of like these ones better than the Kings ones. So let's get them up here. This kind of a pain in the butt to get them up, but we got to talk about the Anaheim Ducks. A complete redesign, new logo, new jerseys, and they went back to a little bit of the old, yet they also did some of the new, and I think it looks phenomenal in my opinion. Definitely the new logo is so much better than what the previous had. I would honestly say that the Anaheim Ducks had the worst jerseys in the NHL for at least the last 10 years. That D logo, like, we all know the D logo, and it's iconic to us in a way, because, that's what you think of when you think of the Anaheim Ducks. But the other thing, too, is it was never a good logo, and it just, the more and more it went, it just, like, the more it grew, the worse those jerseys got, and I think once we got to, like, the Adidas point, that was the tipping point for that previous brand, but this new one, it looks phenomenal. Fans have been asking for them to do this for a while, and they have now done it, and I think these look spectacular, in my opinion. What are your thoughts, Tal?
I love it. They took their old and with the new and pretty much combined it. It's not the same Mighty Ducks logo that we all know and love in that beautiful purple jade and teal color, but they killed it. They still wanted to keep the black and orange line, which I never really minded at all. They put that in with the Mighty Ducks with this modern take that they have on the Mighty Ducks logo. And they killed it on the spot. I love the orange eye. That's my favorite part about this. The iconic duck goalie mask. And I mean, it looks awesome. And this is one of the first times, I believe this is the first time in history, their home jersey is an orange jersey. And they killed it. I mean, it kind of reminded me a lot of the Flyers, especially with that home jersey, but way better, obviously. And the striping looks awesome on it, the new font as well on it. And even the shoulder patch, it's really pretty much the same logo as what they had before, that duck foot D. They just with less striping, and I honestly think this logo looks better as a shoulder patch, and it looks more modern. It looks more simplistic than that old duck foot D logo, and I love it.
Yeah,
My only gripe with these jerseys really is I'm just not really sold yet on the away jersey, the
yep,
orange color on the top of the jersey. If that was white, I think it would look better. I don't know. I'm just not sold at the shoulders being orange on the away jersey. But
yeah,
regardless of that, that's my only gripe with it. And the Ducks killed it. Although
yeah. No, that's
it would have been cool if maybe they would have renamed the team back to the Mighty Ducks. But Anaheim Ducks is still simplistic. You're giving the fans what they want in the Mighty Ducks logo and stuff with your own touches to it because you want to keep your branding the same. They killed it.
yeah. No, I think they did a great job. Obviously, I agree with you on the one issue with the away jersey. I like the ones, but I think if they would have had like a borderline like stripe or something divided from the white and the orange, I think that would have made it look even better. But I think overall, Anaheim killed it with this reband, and they, they look like an actual franchise again. Because those old logos, I'm sorry, they was just terrible. But that pretty much finishes the jerseys section here, and we are now going in here to obviously. I think next week here obviously is the NHL draft. If I'm not, that's correct, right? Next week.
This Friday.
It's Friday.
It's Friday.
Okay, the NBA draft's gonna be confused. I don't know why I was thinking the NBA draft which is going on right now has got me all confused here.
Yeah. So what I
On the
know
draft
for sure.
timeline.
So what I know for sure is I am expecting all the NHL teams. So obviously, Panthers win the cup. What was that yesterday? I'm so like
It's like 2 days
or
ago
two
now. It was
days
Monday.
ago. Today was the Fanatics Drill. Tomorrow, I expect all 32 NHL teams to drop their regular season schedule. I reported back on X that all the teams should be dropping their regular season schedule tomorrow. I hope that stands true. Hopefully, my source didn't correct me wrong. And then the draft is Friday, Saturday. I guess signings on Sunday, and then free agency starts on Monday. So it's just going to be a jam-packed next 10 days for the NHL, and I'm all excited. It's my favorite time of the year.
Oh yeah.
Free agency and the NHL trade deadline, my two most favorite days of the year.
Yeah, one thing I'll hope this year is hopefully Twitter or X doesn't break like last year.
Oh yeah, that was
You remember
awful.
that? That was awful. Yeah. Because you couldn't track the fantasy at all. It's like, are you kidding me? Obviously, I'm sitting on my phone tracking it like usual. And it's like, you can only look at 300 tweets. It's like, wait, what? Hold on, what's going on here? Oh, we got big news, Tal.
Possibly, it sounds like we have a trade happening right now.
Oh, alright, well, breaking news here. Tal Aaron has apparently got some information here.
Okay, so it sounds like we are approaching close to a deal between the Chicago Blackhawks and the Vancouver Canucks.
Oh.
So this trade okay, so it's going to create more cap room for the Canucks. That's like the sole purpose of this trade.
Okay.
I don't know who's involved yet, but it's either Ilya Mikheyev or Sam Lafferty heading to the Blackhawks, and a second rounder might be part of the deal as a sweetener. Not official trade confirmed yet here, but
Yeah. No, I'm seeing Elliot Friedman as well as confirming that at the moment on my end here. I can see Friedman has confirmed that as well. Well, that's something to watch out for. I wonder why Vancouver would be lining up their cap load.
Yeah, and then I have more breaking news as well regarding the Carolina Hurricanes and Martin Necas. There's belief that the New Jersey Devils have dangled the 10th overall pick in a deal for Martin Necas. But if that were to materialize, it might not be until draft night and in round one itself, depending on how the board breaks. And then the Bruins, Flames, Blue Jackets, Blackhawks, Red Wings, and Predators are all some other teams to look out for if a Martin Necas trade happens here in the next few days.
That's a lot of movement also on the Necas front, and of Carolina in general, obviously. A lot of stuff, so there's some breaking news for you. Before we head into the draft section of this here, unless, Tyler, do you have something else?
It
So
sounds like it's going to be Ilya Mikheyev heading to the Blackhawks, although Mikheyev does have a no trade clause yet, and he has not approved the trade yet as of right now, so there is a chance this might not be going in as well.
Okay, well, that's good to know here. So let's move on, obviously, to now the draft part of this here, obviously. Pretty much this section, obviously, the draft's Friday. And we'll just get into here. We think our top 3 picks overall. Like, if you're a team and you're looking for a great prospect, what's a great prospect for you guys to be picking up on? So, Tyler, why don't you go first, too?
Okay, so obviously, we all know who the first overall pick is going to be. It's going to be Macklin Celebrini out of Boston University. Killed it this year in 38 games, 32 goals, 32 assists, 64 points. Just subtle. He's going to go to San Jose no matter what. I am fully convinced he will go to San Jose. We got Chicago at pick 2, Anaheim at pick 3, Columbus pick 4, Montreal pick 5, Utah pick 6. Chicago has already received calls on the second overall pick. They said they're not going to trade it. So we know that. I read a report of who the Ducks might be taking. I can't remember who it was, but I knew he's not in the top 5 of the draft, like draft prospects or whatever. But definitely in my eyes, a real almost like steal of a draft board would be a really good pick. Is I value Ivan Demidov really highly in this league. The only non NCAA player in the top 3 picks. He played at St. Petersburg. He in 30 games, he had 23 goals, 37 assists for 60 points. He is fast, and he really has. I mean, he just has fast speed. Just to put that, 5'11", 181 pounds. I mean, he's gonna be good. And then I do also have a sleeper pick as well, who probably won't be going until like I'd say the late first round, maybe even into the second. And that's defenseman Sam Dickinson from the London Knights. In 68 games, he had 18 goals, 52 assists for 70 points. And I'll tell you what, if you want to go draft a defenseman, this is the year to do it. A lot of defensemen to go around in this draft, as well as NCAA players as well.
Yeah. And obviously, talking on of Chicago and that second overall pick, it's interesting to see what they will pick, because they have a lot of options at 2. Like, they're going to miss on Sabrini, but honestly, there's some pretty good players in this draft that, you can really do it well. But you got to wonder here if you're Chicago, what exactly are they going to do? Are they going to go defense, or are they going to go for forward? Because if you look at the way their draft prospects are lined up at the moment, like prospect-wise, with their farm, they have a lot of defensemen already to this point. And they seem to be quality young defensemen, obviously. They're still developing, they're still needing some more time, obviously, but, you gotta wonder here, are they gonna take a forward instead of a defenseman? Obviously, I think, Levetsnov, hopefully I said it right there, but a lot of people are saying he's at 2, most likely, obviously, the defenseman from Michigan State. A lot of people have heard him at 2, but, obviously as well, with Bedard, you kind of want to get him a good wing, or you want to get a solid second center option for your second line, So obviously, you got to consider what exactly you're going to take here. And I think, obviously, Tyler, my question for you here is, what do you think they're going to take here to Chicago?
I think they go defenseman. I really do think
defense.
they take a defenseman off the board here. Whether that would be a guy like Artem Levshinov or even a guy like Zane Park, just a guy like that. I mean, Park from the Saginaw Spirit, 66 games, 33 goals, 63 assists, 96 points. I believe the leading scorer for defensemen in this draft class. I mean, he has that offensive and defensive capability. He's a two-way player, and that's really like your ideal defenseman. I could even see them going that route. I could also see them, going that forward route, getting a winger for Bedard. Although I do think they're going to address that in free agency for Chicago. And even speaking of Chicago, I do have that trade with Vancouver.
So is it confirmed now?
They're just waiting for Ilya Mikheyev to accept his no trade clause. But other than that, we do have the trade is finalized. They're just waiting for Mikheyev for this trade to go through. So
well, then there's your big breaking news there. Big trade on the front for Chicago and Vancouver here. Obviously, moving in now to my 3 prospects, obviously, that I think you can't miss. I think they're great picks, obviously. Salvini, you got to put him at the 1. He's been spectacular this year, very productive offensively. And San Jose is going to get the stud of a player when they draft him first overall Friday night. Obviously, we talked about Levshinov, the defenseman out of Michigan State. I really like his game. He's very productive, and he's proven at a high level. Obviously, college hockey has really grown, especially talent-wise, in the last couple of years. And he's been a spectacular player, and has really... I think his draft stock is going to be the most highest. I would say a 2 for Chicago if I was them. I think that's probably who you take, in my opinion, at 2, obviously. And I'm going to leave Sabini out of my top 3 just because everyone knows he's going 1, and he's probably
Mhm.
the best player in this draft. So I'm going to do my 3 other ones other than Sabini. And obviously, I think Levashov is, in my opinion, he's the second best player available in this draft, and I think he's going to be a good pick to have for whoever gets him. But honestly, there's one guy I think that's been really underrated. We haven't really talked much about the forwards. And obviously, I think one guy to really look for is Berkeley Catton. I think he could be someone you look at. I really like Lindstrom, but obviously we've had some injury issues with him right now at the moment. So due to that, I'm gonna leave him off at the moment. I think it was a foot injury. Tyler, do you remember what Lindstrom's injury was? But it was some kind of concerning.
Yeah, I knew it. I think it was his foot or
Yeah, it
ankle.
was something
I
with the
knew it
foot. I
was a
know that.
lower body injury,
Yeah.
something around that nature.
So honestly, when I look at like the top forwards here, honestly in this draft, as much as I like Lindstrom, with that injury, that's a little concerning. And honestly, at the moment, I think Berkeley Catton is probably a safer bet at this point. So I'm gonna put my 2 here on my top draft board here as someone. If you're gonna pick him, you're gonna like what you're gonna get. And I think obviously third here as well. I think this is a good defenseman class. And obviously, I know Tyler's talking a lot about it, and I'll say it too. And he also put this guy on here as well, but I think he's been undervalued, and that's Sam Dickinson. I think obviously I don't know why I call him Dickerson. I knew it's Dickinson, but I think that's another guy. He's very productive for obviously as a defenseman. And if you can get a productive defenseman, that's something very special. And I think whoever gets Dickinson as well, you're getting a great defenseman who can produce offensively, which is something it's hard to get. There's not many of them out there. Obviously, when you think of offensive defensemen, like the only 3 I can really mention well that like are well known is McCaw, Carlson, and then Quinn Hughes. You know what I mean? Like that. You can't get them all at the time anywhere you want. So if you have a chance against someone who can produce, obviously I'm not saying Dickinson will be any of those 3 players I just mentioned, but obviously he has produced offensively at his level, and if that translates to the NHL, that could be definitely a great pick for someone to have.
Yeah, I mean, it really had. I mean, regardless wherever these prospects do end up, they're all going to have impactful parts to the team. Whether wherever they go, it's really we all know Macklin Celebrini is going number 1, and then there's these clump of like 5 to 10 players that can literally go anywhere off the board. It's like I remember, I believe it's the 2020. Because I believe it's the 2020 draft, Lafreniere's draft. We knew Lafreniere was going 1, Byfield was going number 2, and we had no idea where everyone else was going. I think that's when Stutzel went 3.
Yeah, Stewart won 3 though. Yeah,
I believe Draisaitl went 4, or no, not Draisaitl, or
not Draisaitl.
Jamie Drysdale. Sorry,
Drysdale. Yeah,
Jamie Drysdale went 4, and then Sanderson at 5. Kind of like around there, but really, we know who the first overall pick is going to be.
Yeah.
It could be anyone. I could see even TJ Aginla jumping up.
Yeah, that's
into
another guy I
the
really like. I'm interested to see how Iginla can perform. Obviously, there's been another famous Iginla out in the NHL before, and obviously this guy he has star potential. I would say. Like there's
Yeah,
a lot of players in this draft that I've noticed. It's not the strongest draft, but there's a lot of players who could either be stars or just be complete busts, in my opinion.
yeah, even
And there's
like
someone that you look at, he's got star potential. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think that could be someone to watch out for as well. He's not in my top 3 at the moment, but I think he's a guy. If I'm at like 6 or 7, I'm eyeing up him pretty quickly, in my opinion.
Yeah, even like a guy like Cole Iserman as well, or like a guy like Liam Greentree, who's projected to be in that top 10, top 15 range, would be great. That's why I wish like if the Penguins would have still had their picked, like them to go out for a guy like Liam Greentree. He's a really good player, very fast, a 2-way player, has a snipe, like a literal like Patrick Laine snipe shot to his game as well. And just those guys like that, you're going to get a guy like that on your team, and you're going to get a guy like that. It's somebody you want to go for.
Yeah. Now, obviously, definitely a lot of innocent draft prospects coming up here. But now let's obviously move away from the draft here, and let's go to something after the draft, and a lot of big stuff's happening here. We've already started here, we've seen a whole bunch of trades. Well, we're getting to free agency time, and boy, is there a lot of names out there this year. that I think people are going to draw a lot of attention to. So obviously, now today you got into a little bit of a thing on X with a couple of Tampa Bay Lightning fans about a certain player, Steven Stamkos. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of him. I think he's a pretty good player. I think he's won a couple of Stanley Cups, a lot of scored fire, get a bit of goals in his time. I don't know. I wonder how many he's actually scored. It's got to be up there. Right?
Oh yeah, I would imagine it's up
Yeah,
there.
it's got to be. I feel like he's at least somewhere on the 400s at the moment, right?
I
He
believe
scores.
he is at 400. I'll pull up his stats.
Yeah, let's pull it up here real quick. But great goal scorer. Obviously, though, and free agency wise, it makes things very interesting in my opinion. But
I don't know
this draft
why.
class, yeah.
I don't know why. I just looked up. I just typed in Steven Stamkos, and literally the first article pulled up is Steven Stamkos will sign with the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2024 free agency. That was like 2 days ago. There's no way that's true.
I don't think the Pens can afford him. No,
but his career resume.
Cubas did pull off Tavares, so you never know.
Well, his career resume right now: 582 goals, 1,137 points. Oh, sorry, 555 goals, 582 assists. I read that wrong. Yeah. But I do have, barring, again, Makhayev's thing, I do have the full trade.
Oh, yeah, let's get the full trade done here. Yep.
So to the Blackhawks will be Ilya Makhayev, a 2025 second-round pick, and pending UFA Sam Lafferty to the Blackhawks. I would be highly doubtful Sam Lafferty does re-sign with the Blackhawks. I mean, he's already played there once.
And he didn't like it.
Going to the Canucks is a 2027 fourth round pick, and that's the whole trade.
Oh, that's an interesting trade. Obviously, on Vancouver's side, it makes you think they must be popping up something pretty big here.
Yeah, and I can read my tweet I put on X about Steven Stamkos.
Oh yeah.
So I said, if I were a Go Bolts fan, I would be concerned on the Stamkos contract situation. It's been very quiet, and I would hit the panic button, not now, but really soon. And it blew up a little bit on X.
Yeah, I know. You were telling me it blew up pretty big.
It blew up, but there hasn't been I just got a whole bunch of Lightning fans' thoughts and opinions on it of like what they would think would like a lot of people. And I was surprised. There's a lot of mixed. There's like some people like I want to win a Stanley Cup, and I'd be okay if he leaves. Like it's not just about keeping players here; it's about winning a Stanley Cup. And then there was people like, please re-sign him. Well, right now with Steven Stamkos, his last contract that he signed was an 8-year deal back in 2014, and he signed that contract June 29th, 2 days before the free agency even hit. From what I read about an hour ago, it sounds like Stamkos it's very likely he hits the market on Monday, which surprises me because there's already a whole bunch of teams lining up right now to try and go after him if he hits that market at noon on Monday. Yeah. We'll see. But really, if I am any NHL team and I see Stamkos on the free agency board, the team I'd most likely think that he'd go to would be the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, I see Red Wings. Obviously, that could be a big one. But I just put up like the cap space for teams here, just like looking at it wise. And this is interesting here, and I'm going to raise this up because this could potentially happen. We've heard rumors of this team, potentially making noise. They need to announce themselves, and that is Utah. If you look at the cap space that they have $42 million open right now at the moment. Obviously, that could change by free agency time as it comes, but that's a lot of cap space, and they could potentially do something with that cap space.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely could. I've already heard rumblings. I actually saw earlier reports, I believe it was yesterday or 2 days ago, that Mitch Marner was going to be on his way to Utah, but the trade wouldn't formally be announced till closer to around the draft date or whatever. They didn't want it to overlook everything with like the finals and everything.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I've seen reports on Marner going to Utah. Utah said that they're willing to trade their 6th overall pick. I knew when Ryan Smith bought the team from Alex Morello.
Clown.
He personally said, "We're done rebuilding. We're going to start contending now." And
Yeah.
that's going to be a way that they'll do it. Is go for a big guy named player like Mitch Marner. Stamkos would not be bad either.
I think Stamkos, honestly, we're talking about spots Stamkos could go here if he hits the market. In my opinion, Utah's pretty. It looks pretty good, honestly, on the surface. Like, he's gonna get a play of Clayton Keller. I don't know why I said Clayton. Gonna get a play of Keller, and there's some innocent pieces there that Arizona, now Utah, has. And they are a team that, honestly, if they play their cards right, it may be a little early for them to be spending like maniacs at the moment, but if they play their cards right, they can make this thing work. And I think we could see them being a playoff team by next year, which would be a big shot in the arm, obviously. This is a team coming from last term in Arizona, which was a complete disaster, into a new area that's never seen NHL hockey. Obviously, and so far it's done very well money-wise at the moment, like with pre-orders for season tickets, but, they need to make some noise and announce themselves. But also, if you look at this as well here, Anaheim has $33 million in cap at the moment as well. And if you do look at Anaheim, they haven't been very good, but they do have a lot of young, talented players on that team. So you do wonder, and they have the third overall pick. Could they look into adding a veteran too to help these young guys out who's very good? I don't think Stamkos goes to Anaheim. I'm not saying that. I'd be very surprised if we see a Stamkos to Anaheim type deal. Actually, by surprised, I mean I'd be shocked, but there's other players out there that I could see them potentially bringing in to help out the young guys. Like, for instance, Adam Henrique, obviously a former Duck, that could be an option for them at the moment because, they need to get some older, talented players in there to help out these young guys. I think that's someone they could look at as well. Obviously, Tyler Bertuzzi could be a good idea for Anaheim as well if you look at that. But, obviously, you see the list of these teams, cap space wise, it's an instant topic, like same with Chicago as well and Detroit. Like, these top four teams, they're not the best teams. Obviously, they're the closest one to contending. Very close last year, it was dismissed by a margin, but they could make some big moves here and they could really change the way the seasons could go. Obviously, Chicago, they could buy big on a player to get to play with Bedard, which would be interesting to see how that happens. I don't think they're close to playoffs yet. I just don't. They're toward the beginning of their rebuild, in my opinion. They got the biggest piece of that rebuild, but they still have more to do. But, obviously, you look at this, a lot of places he could go. Tyler, what are your thoughts here on where Stamkos could go?
Obviously, I think he'd go to a team like Utah, Detroit. And regarding Detroit, they're doing something big. We know they're doing something big because, they just extended Jake Wallman to a 3-year deal where he's making 3.1, and then they just dumped him to San Jose.
Oh, yeah.
Which didn't make a lot of sense because he's young and he has all this upside and stuff, and his classic gritty, I mean. Yeah. But we know Detroit's cooking something, whether that's Stamkos coming back. It sounds like Patrick Kane's going to hit the free agency market, which, okay. That's okay for Detroit, especially if you can go after someone like Stamkos. But what I'm really hearing right now is Detroit is in talks for a goaltender right now. And
they do need the goaltending. Yeah.
They do need the goaltending.
Husso has not panned out at the moment as much as they wished he would have.
And regarding goalie trade rumors with Detroit, there's 2 goaltenders right now that they have been in talks for acquiring, and these will be likely the final 2 candidates. And that is the whole way out to the new rebranded Anaheim Ducks with John Gibson.
Yep.
Or they're going southeast and they're going to get Tristan Jarry. Those are the only 2 names I've heard from Detroit in acquiring goalie. It's either going to end up being John Gibson or Tristan Jarry. It's going to be one of the 2.
Yeah, that's definitely this, and honestly, Tristan Jarry as well, if you talk about that for the Penguins. If they do decide to trade him, then I must mean Blomqvist is looking pretty good, I would say.
Yeah, that would be.
Which there's a lot of hype on Blomqvist at the moment, potentially being a spectacular goaltender. And that makes it interesting, but you also gotta think here, for the Red Wings, how much is Joey gonna cost them to trade for? Because the Pens has put a bunch of money in him. He's been an all-star goaltender for them for the most part. And he gets a lot of crap from a lot of people, but honestly, he's not that bad to begin with. Like, he's a solid goaltender, and when he needs to be good, he is good, for the most part. But you do have to wonder here, is it too expensive for Detroit for what they're doing at the moment? Obviously, I think Detroit's in a spot where they're not going all in, but they feel like this is the year we need to start contending for cups. And I think Yeserman, I can't pronounce his name at the moment for some reason, but I know how to say it. I don't know why I just can't do it, but, he's been there for a couple years now, and I think they've expected a lot out of him, and they're so close, but they just need that little bit more, and I think there's some pressure on him to do something here, and I think, obviously, you talk Stamkos, obviously, and I think that's definitely a big possibility here, too. But there's another guy, a winger here, I want to bring up here as potentially, this is the other big piece that I could see really happening real quick, and that's the former Penguin Jake Gensel. Obviously, he traded to Carolina in a crazy move at the end after the Pens were falling apart, and then somehow come back after that. It's a whole thing with the Penguins, but Jake Gensel, he's the other big chip on this market that people are watching to see what happens. And honestly, Tyler, what have you heard on the Gensel front?
Yeah, so what I've heard on the Getzel front is unless Carolina has offered Getzel an 8-year deal at around $8 million AAV. Which is not bad. But Getzel said no. So I would imagine he's going to be asking for around that $9 to $10 million range. And from what I can tell, unless Carolina wants to reach up to that offer, I don't think Getzel wants to play for Carolina. And that's why I think he's going to hit that market on Monday. And I know it'll be hard not for him, to see what the market and what people are going to pay for Getzel. But definitely he's going to hit the market.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. We will see Gensel on the market from on Monday for sure. If Stamkos is still iffy if he gets there, but I think the expectation now is Stamkos will, but there's the uncertainty. With Gensel, there was no uncertainty. He will be there on Monday, I guarantee you. I don't think we're going to be seeing him waiting around. But you do have to wonder here with Gensel for the potential suitors. Who exactly is that going to be? Because I think, obviously, Gensel wants to get paid, but he's also probably want to go in a place where he's going to win. So I'm going to push around the idea here. Detroit's an option for Gensel. I think that's, if they can't get Stamkos, I think Detroit gets Gensel, in my opinion. I think that's an area in which they could pivot. But if you look at cap-wise, a lot of the big name teams here, like the top ones, I have a tough time seeing Gensel going there. You know what I mean? He's 100% not going to Anaheim. Chicago possibly, because he could play up Bedard and it'd be like him playing with Sid again. But, obviously as well, he's probably not winning anything for the most part, so it's tough seeing him going there. Utah, I just don't see Gensel in Utah together. It just doesn't, it doesn't seem like it would work out as much. I mean, I could see Stamkos in Utah, but I really can't see Gensel in Utah for some reason. San Jose is at 5, that's not happening. I doubt Nashville could even make the play. Carolina's still at 7, and obviously some still could happen, but it's highly unlikely to that point. But obviously, some names you could look at is Buffalo has money here. Buffalo, if you look at them, they have $23 million in cap. LA has 23 in cap as well, the Kings. Seattle, technically, as well. That's a young team, a lot of young guys. They made the playoffs before. That's now you can look. But yeah, there's a lot of places he can really go, and honestly, Tyler, what are your thoughts on that?
On Getzel to Seattle.
No, just in general to any of those places.
Okay, so definitely, I know Chicago's in the mix. Vancouver's going to put a full court press on Getzel. But from what I've heard, Getzel does not want to go north the border. He does not want to play.
I thought no Canada as well.
Yeah, so no Canada on Getzel. So that eliminates 7 of the 32. So now we're down to 25 teams he chooses from. He's definitely going to go to a contender. I have
Yeah.
heard rumblings of Pittsburgh being interested in bringing
Everyone's
back
heard the
Getsel,
Pittsburgh, yeah.
but I doubt it because Getsel wanted to stay here. He wanted to be re-signed here, but we dumped him, and that made him upset and
Yeah.
stuff. And he's not really happy with how things ended in Pittsburgh. And I know Pittsburgh's open to him coming back. I'd love to see it happen. I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's very unlikely. But the other thing, too, is you have to understand. Dubas is in charge, but there's someone a little bit higher than him named Sidney Crosby as well. And I think technically Crosby's technically never done this, but if he wants Gensel, he'll get Gensel, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, if Crosby's gonna want Gensel back, then I expect the Pens to actually go after it. You know what I mean? Because you got a deal of Crosby, and if Crosby, he knows he can do it if he wants to. I think that's why Hextall got fired in the first place last year, was a pushing from Sid. I think, obviously, and if you look in more recent memory, like some of these moves, it looks more like Sid was influencing, like, the extensions for Malkin and Letang. Like, obviously, we knew they had to happen, but, it definitely seems as if it was, like, a Crosby push this, you need to do that, and that's what I wonder for the Gensler too. Would that be a case that happens? And Crosby says, get Gensler while I'm going to not sign, because you got to think, Crosby, he's a free agent after next year. And he has a complete leverage over the Penguins if he wants to. And he could say, I want you to sign all these players, I want you to trade so-and-so out of here, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, the Ryan Graves, could we see that be a salary dump within the next day or two? Wiley Smith's going to probably be a salary dump. So, like, at the moment, the Penguins, cap-wise, they're not there. But if you make a few moves, they could be in a spot where they could buy a top free agent and then a couple other ones as well. In my opinion, obviously, Tyler, what do you hear on that front with the Penguins at the moment with some of these guys like Graves, Riley Smith, you've heard a lot about? There's some contracts on the Pens that aren't the best that if you could get rid of, that'd be perfect. And honestly, if you trade Joey, that's $5 million out, which would be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, so there's a lot I know on the Penguins front. So one thing I can absolutely 100% confirm is Riley Smith will be traded this offseason. It's just a matter of when. He is 100% on the block. They tried dealing him at the deadline, but it did not work. So he will be traded at some point in the offseason. Also, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like Tristan Jarry is on the trade block as well. So there is a very good chance we see a Nedeljkovic-Blomqvist tandem next year as well. Expectations for a return on Jarry. Jarry will 100% fetch a second round pick. But I expect...
And that's good.
But I expect the Jarry return will be about the same as the Jacob Markstrom trade, because Jarry is 5 years younger than Markstrom. Makes like 0.85 million less than Markstrom, and Jarry has better stats than Jacob Markstrom. And Markstrom fetched a first round pick in the top prospect. So that's my expectation, to where if Jarry gets traded, I expect it to happen on draft night, where the Penguins jump up into the first round. Ryan Graves wise, I expect him to be on the team next season.
Yeah, I thought Graves still on the team, but honestly, if I was Dubas, I'd consider doing it.
I don't disagree with you, especially when his no movement clause kicks in around year 3 or 4 in his contract. I know it's there for like 2 years out of his 6-year contract or whatever. I know that's going to kick in soon. It's not happening this year, so that's definitely a possibility. But Kyle Dubas has already openly said that he wants Graves to... He's given him another season because, let's give him a second chance and stuff. And if he still continues to do bad, then consider a cap dump out of him. But regarding the offense, Penguins are going to target a winger, especially fixing the bottom 6 and even adding a top 6 winger as well. And I know for sure our centers next year will be Crosby, Malkin, Achari, and Lars Eller. Those will not change. defense, there might be a move or two. I don't expect anything major on the blue line for the Penguins. Maybe a third pairing signing like that. I'd love to see Jack St. Ivany stick on the third pairing. He played really well when he did play for the Penguins during post trade deadline part of the season. And John Ludwig, I would move on from him. I know the Penguins are really going to target a almost like an enforcer type player, whether that's like a guy like Jacob Trouba, who I've heard about. Although I don't see it as a whole likelihood of that happening, just because of one, trading in the division, and two, Letang and Carlson already holding over $16 million of your cap space already just on those two. I don't see that happening, but definitely something to watch out for on the wing side or even in that bottom pairing defenseman. But definitely, I do think the top target for the Penguins is re-signing Crosby on July 1st. And I heard around the ballpark of 10 million AAV for 3 more years. So that means whatever Crosby gets on his next contract is how much longer he's playing. That's how we're going to know how long he's playing for, stuff like that. But definitely the Penguins still want to win. They still want to contend. They still have Crosby, Malkin, Letang. Even though time is quickly winding out, they still want to win. But definitely, I know I'm rambling on for forever, but I've heard the Penguins are targeting wingers such as Patrick Laine from Columbus. I heard potentially Riley Smith going back the other way. I've heard Oliver Wahlstrom from the Islanders, and I've heard Andrew Mangiapane from the Flames. Those are the three guys Dubas kind of has his eyes on right now. And, it's just a matter of time of what he does. But I expect here the next 2 weeks, this roster is going to look completely different. I expect lots of trades, lots of free agency signings, especially with our current cap space situation. It's just a matter of what Dubas wants to do.
Yeah. Obviously, a lot of stuff going on with the Gensel as well. And then, obviously, we talk about Gensel, you got to talk about the Penguins and all that going in now. But, yeah, we're going to do one last one here before we close out the episode here today. And another one name here, it's not even a name, but we just want to talk about this team here. The Carolina Hurricanes. This was kind of their win it deal, and they did not do that, obviously. And they have a lot of pending free agencies. Obviously, we talked about Gensel. That was the big trade line acquisition. But they also have Teuvo Teravainen. That's now a free agent that they have. They have Brady Skijy. I think that's... I cannot pronounce his name right. You know what I mean? He's been in so long, I just can't pronounce his name. And it's for the life of me. Brett Pesce, another guy who's a free agent. And there's a whole bunch of these guys. Martin Nietzsche's. That's another one. See, that's how one more in here on this list. I don't know who it was, but there's a lot of guys on Carolina they have to sign. And do you think they can sign most of these guys? Will these guys even gonna be willing to sign?
Honestly, that's my main question right now. I know Teuvo Teravainen is going to hit the market July 1st. From what I've heard, Martin Nietzsche is going to be traded here within the next 48 hours. It sounds like it's going to be to the Devils, but I can't say anything right now. But I think it's going to be a lost cause for Carolina. Getzel doesn't want to resign, and that's who they're going after. They want Getzel to resign in Carolina. They can't get a deal done unless they up the offer, but unless Carolina wants to offer a substantial deal for Teravainen, from what I heard, he's going to hit the market. Nietzsche is going to get traded. I think Pesce might be an RFA as well as Nietzsche.
No, he's a UFA, Pesce.
Okay, so then Pesce's going to be gone. I expect Pesce to go. I've heard Nashville, and that's where I think he might end up, is Nashville. But I know they're the main team who has interest in Pesce, but there's a lot of questions in Carolina and how they're going to be able to do things. I
And
know.
then definitely as well here too, they have a new GM now. Obviously, Don Waddell, he said bye and went off to Columbus, which was insanity. And then obviously they do have Tulsky now as the GM, the former assistant GM. He was highly rated by a lot of people last year in the GM conversations to be an next one. I know Penguins wise, he was one of the big names. It was pretty much him and Dubas when you looked at it, who was going to be the next GM of the Penguins. And obviously a lot of other teams as well were very interested in Tulsky, just never did materialize. But obviously, it's a new regime in Carolina, but it sounds like a disaster if you think about it, because they just lost their GM, he built this team, and he's been a great GM for them. Obviously, there's a lot of hype around Tulsky, I will say that. I know definitely you wanted him big time for the Pens one last year. But you gotta wonder if this new regime, what exactly we're gonna be looking at when it comes to Carolina next year. You know what I mean? Like, at least some of these guys gonna still be here, or most of them gonna be gone completely. It's a big question mark. And if you think about it, too, when it comes to this division as well in the Metro, who's your leaders now? Because obviously, it's still gonna be the Rangers. They'll still be one of the big teams in there. But Carolina looks to be, if things don't go well, it doesn't look like it will, they're not gonna be very good. The Flyers could potentially take a step, but they massively overachieved last year too, in a lot of people's minds. Washington, I think that was their last gasp. I don't think there's much more coming out of Washington. I'll be honest with you, they got lucky at the end there. The Penguins they're confusing at the moment. You know what I mean? They could be good, they could be not good. You know what I mean? They're just in a confused kind of state. The Devils, obviously, we thought would be a great team. Obviously, 2 years ago, very good, spectacular, made the playoffs. I think they didn't win the Metro, but they came very close to winning the Metro. Then this past season, they were a complete tile fire disaster. It's like what is this division looking like? Obviously, it's Columbus. It's not, they're not very good to begin with. The Islanders, they're weird. They're in a weird spot as well. So when you look at this division, what do you think here for next year?
I definitely think the Rangers are going to stay on top of the division
Yeah,
like
obviously I
they
think the
were
Rangers
this
are the
year.
top, but after the top, it's
I mean, honestly, it can go anywhere. Actually, I do believe it's going to be the New Jersey Devils, actually, who's going to finish in that number 2 or number 3 seed. They got Markstrom. They got their goalie. They could potentially adding Nietzsche's. Also, more Nietzsche's news coming up. It sounds like it's down to either New Jersey or Buffalo for Mark Nietzsche's. Both of them are
I
in the
can see
mix.
Buffalo selling bigger for him.
I imagine Buffalo has offered the 11th overall pick, but Buffalo has more prospects
I think Buffalo
than
it'd be easier for them to.
yeah, it would. I think it would be way easier for Buffalo to make a move for Nitras rather than that. And then if the Hurricanes can trade Nitras, they'll have the cap space where they can go out and re-sign Gessel to what he wants to. So definitely, it just depends on where Nitras is going to go. I expect him to be traded by draft night. So
Yeah. Now, obviously, I think we expect to see a lot of trades draft night, honestly, for every team here. But obviously, like this division, it's a big question mark at the moment. I think hopefully when we get to the regular season, it'll be a little more, you feel what's going on. But it's definitely a very big question mark. This NHL news wise, there's a lot of moon parts this offseason than usually most. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like out of all the off seasons, this is one of the more confusing ones we've seen in recent memory. Like, we just don't know what's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like, and especially some of the players out on the market. Like, these are big names. Like, Stamkos, Gensel. They're on the market. I think I saw. Let me double check this here. Sam Reinhart's on the market for Florida. That's a big piece. Matt Murray. I don't know why he's out on the top here because he's been injured forever. But
yeah,
for some reason they have him out there. But hey, maybe he finally rebounds.
even like Jeff Skinner's going to hit the market too. Buffalo's going to buy out the remaining of his contract, so that's even going to open up more cap space in Buffalo as well. That buyout period, I believe, starts on the 30th, or actually tomorrow. But Jeff Skinner's contract will be bought out, so there's another contract off the books where they can go out and they can get somebody big.
Yeah. Well, that pretty much obviously will do it here for this episode A lot of moving parts. Free agency starts on Monday. The draft is Friday night here. A lot of stuff is happening. Just obviously I wanted to do just like a combined video of like basketball and stuff. You just couldn't do it with all the NHL stuff going on. But yeah, thank you, Tal, for coming on to the show here. Definitely check out his podcast, Units at the Point. He hasn't done it in a while, but he's got some great stuff from last year. If you like listening back to stuff, there's a lot of great episodes there you can listen to. A lot of great takes, and we'll see there's some stuff this year here. Any stuff coming this year, Tal, or not?
I don't believe so, but I'm definitely gonna get back into the podcast. I'll probably have one out around the draft, definitely on free agency, who I think Penguins are going to potentially sign. There's a lot of names that I do think the Penguins could go out and get in free agency. So look for that on Users at the Point podcast. But yeah, thanks for having me on today, Joey.
Yeah, no, you're welcome, Tal. Thanks for coming on. Obviously, you're the NHL specialist. I think for this video, we had to pick in the NHL specialist. The music go all. I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe that. You kind of got the base and stuff, so I thought, hey, let's bring him on. Yeah, but obviously, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please comment, like, and subscribe, and tune in for more. Have a great day.